I'm sitting right here under this tree of booty sidebar, trying to get peace on my mind and recover from the past deeds that I done did back then. Holocaust speeds, I reverse and revise that step by step. I'm taking hard try, mental gaze and float high like an eagle store by. Hopefully single hope I leave it a little blow time. Pause it a moment, low light. Mind metaphysics, I'm still on that booty sidebar chanting only booty mantra raspy for their cosmic mother Anki to the godly hunters. I'll stay on my sacred lane, mind play with spiritual pain. Some say I'm a kuni and say I'm done saying I'm a god in the making man's eye. Godly attraction, best time. Houston galactic hell stars got me popping and logging heads. I had to stick to my calling every day. I do mine right. Easy places no one tried. See me rising up sky high. I'ma keep ascending till time flies. In a god, I'm one with all. Deeper thoughts through mind control. Stay online, keep timing on. I'm a timing bomb and my timing's on. Cause these fools are from heaven. Down lately descendants. Sounds made by the angels to the made men. I maintain that cause these fools are from heaven.
All right, the essence of all of life truly is the seeking of peace, joy, and happiness. And this is really what all spiritual systems try to get you to essentially. And the essential message in all spiritual systems, and the practitioners know this well, is that the one seeking is the one being sought. Now this seems like a paradox. The one seeking is the one who is being sought after. Meaning in spirituality, we go out and seek the righteousness of God in harmony with life, in this peace, joy, and righteousness. Yet the whole time we do not know that while we go outward to find it, what we are seeking for is the one who is doing the seeking. God, who is all there is, veils himself by himself to himself. These sayings are hard to grasp. If I told you that everything you see is God, it would be difficult for you to grasp because you see through the prism of your mind. And so to understand what I'm saying, you must seek the one who is seeking. You must find the one who is doing the searching. There's a quote from a Christian, Saint Francis of Assisi, who said, "The one you are looking for is the one who is looking." In spirituality, we're all seeking for the ultimate truth, which goes under the title God, right? And we search throughout life through books, through teachers, through various practices, meditations, prayers, all the while not knowing that the one you are looking for is the one who is looking. And so the problem comes in how do we find that one which is looking? If you say this, how do I find it? Right? And so this saying or this paradoxical statement is littered throughout all the spirituality. This aphorism has the same meaning as one of the proverbs of the Temple of Luxor that says this: "The body is the house of God. That is why it is said, man, know thyself." It also says in the ancient Greek temples, it's inscribed on the outer court, know thyself. This was at the temple at Delphi. What does it mean to know yourself? Because essentially, if a man wants to find the underlying peace that pervades all experience, he must truly know himself. And when you know yourself, you know God. But in this life, we take our mind too seriously, and our mind is what prevents us from seeing it. What do I mean we take our mind too seriously? Meaning, when we listen to our mind, we are constantly misled. And this misleading leads us into searches in the outer world to find this peace. And we believe that these objects, books, teachers, events, and the phenomena of life are reality, when actually they are only the temporary and changeable aspects of our understanding of life. See, true reality is not transient. It doesn't pass away. It's not ever changing or limited. The true reality is the self. As the Christ of the New Testament once quoted, the kingdom of God is within you. Our true nature as awareness or pure consciousness. This self does not change. It does not think. It does not fear. It does not desire. It is devoid of all these things. It is stable. It's mature. It is full of peace, happiness, and fulfillment. And that which is fulfilled does not need to search. All the searching that is done by the mind. And when we identify with the objects of the mind, we become unsettled, disturbed, seeking for something outwardly. And since the mind is limited, it's always looking for another limited thing to fulfill it, which these limited things outwardly are nothing but vapors. They come and go. There's nothing to grasp onto. See, our ultimate self, when it is known, is seen as pure contentment, and it is the source of all intelligence. It's the source of all good, all creativity. But when the mind tries to understand pure consciousness, it just sees it as nothing but, simple awareness. To the mind, it is nothing, because the mind loves the shiny things of life. And so it always turns away from it and goes back into the world. And this is one of the problems that many have when truly understanding what they are. Their mind takes them back away. Because the mind's job is to identify as a separate self. And so no matter how unhappy we may be, how disturbed, how much we long after truth, or long after peace, or long after happiness, or we are in flight of something to come, our true nature is always pervading all these experiences. It is the ground of all experiences. It's underneath it all. It is the absolute nature of all appearances. And this is the goal of all of our searching, to find this current of peace that underlines the good and bad experiences. And when you find this current of peace, which is nothing but the essence of God, then you truly see God face to face. You find that which was doing the looking the whole time. You have found the looker. And when you begin to rest in that more and more, you are at peace even when there is chaos. You are at peace when there is peace as well. There is something pervading all of the changes of life. That is what is called God in its essence. That is what's called the self in its essence. That's what you are, essentially. This ground of life never changes. And the only thing that keeps us searching for it is the searching itself. The mind is constantly focused outward, trying to search for something to bring it pleasure, bring it peace. But this whole thing is a delusion. And finding the self inside of us is simplicity itself. It's nothing you have to gain because you are already that. What has to happen is a letting go of all the things you're attached to, all of your thoughts, even the identity of a self that you have held on to your whole life. And this is what people are afraid to let go of because they think they will no longer remain. Will I exist after I let go? The character that you perceive will keep on going while you remain ever still in the essence of your nature. You just will not be infused in that character as you once were, but the character will remain. So finding our true self is being aware that you are awareness itself. And awareness is not something in the world. Let me ask you a question. Do you find awareness in the world or the world in awareness? Of course, it's in awareness. Do you find awareness in your body or is your body in awareness? Your body is in awareness. Awareness is devoid of all objects. That's why it is able to become all objects, like the object of my voice right now, the object of the shape of your body right now, the objects of all that is seen and heard and felt and smelt and thought right now. Awareness forms into all these things. Yet it is all made of awareness or pure awareness, which is none other than God himself. But we constantly search at these appearances for the whole. And you can never find the whole in the limited, although everything that appears as limited is nothing but the whole. This is the paradox. What we search for in life, whether it be a relationship with another or a drug to provide a release or whatever it is a pure distraction from the fulfillment of knowing and recognizing the true essence of yourself in all its glory. This is why it is said in the New Testament, Christ said, I come to give you life more abundantly. Because anyone who rests in the self rests in that which is already full. It needs nothing. It seeks nothing. Only the appearances seek. And when you attach to appearances, you will forever be seeking. So we must spend some time in the process of being aware of being aware. Not being aware of a thought. Not being aware of a perception. But being aware of being aware. This is the path to freedom, liberation, and fulfillment. There is no other path. Even the outward path where people think God is outside of themselves. The practitioners of that path have to lose themselves totally in God, which when they do that, they are devoid of a self and everything becomes God. It's the same way in knowing the self. When you find out what you are, you lose your whole life in the essence of God. And God is just a title or a personal title for an impersonal principle that pervades all of life. So, as a quote goes by a Zen Buddhist, Dogon, about the self. He said to study the self is to forget the self. So to know yourself, what he's saying, is to realize that you are no self. You are not the thing that you have believed yourself to be. He goes on to say, to forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When actualized by myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and minds of others, fall away. Where division or duality falls away, where you don't no longer see otherness. All you see is singleness. And this singleness is eternal. It remains forever. Duality comes and goes. Images come and goes. But the underlying current of all of life, the underlying essence of all of life, is eternal. It has no birth and has no end. But the things that arise in it come and go. This is why it is said to know yourself. Because at the deepest part of your being, who you are essentially, has been ever present in all experience, whether it be good or bad. The reason these experiences are possible is because of you and your essence. So I want to end this by reading a few scriptures. But before I do, I want to quote several saints from several different religions. As the Persian Muslim Rumi, 13th century, said, "Know, therefore, that the body is merely a garment. Seek the wearer of the garment and not the cloak." Because in life we identify with the cloak, we identify with this body. We identify with the garment. And since it's limited, it brings us suffering because we care about what it appears to another limited being or how it feels. Know that these things are just appearances in your eternal nature. The wearer is eternal. The cloak is ever changing. That's why the body changes. Yet you have been the eternal one noticing all the changes. So therefore you must be changeless to notice the changes. Meister Eckhart, a 13th century Christian, said, "The eye that I see God with is the same eye that he sees me with. His eye and my eye are one. One knowing, one being, one love." When one truly sees his own nature, he can truly say, "I am the truth. I am the way. I am the life," as the Christ of the New Testament put it. One can also say, "Me and my Father are one," because one truly sees his nature, that he and the source are not two different things. They are one in the same reality. And to put a title just to point you in the direction, I say it is pure consciousness. Just like in the Quran, in Surah 31, Ayat 16, it says, "O my dear son, lo, though it be the weight of a grain of a mustard seed, and though it be in a rock, or in the heavens, or in the earth, Allah will bring it forth. Lo, Allah is subtle, aware." Allah is the most subtle, and he is the only aware in all of life. And you are that aware. You are that awareness. It also says in the Quran that Allah is closer than your jugular vein, meaning he is your very essence, only if you can see it. It's not good enough to just say in theory, "Yeah, I am God." One who sees it rests in that perfect peace, that perfect patience. that perfect fulfillment. In the Tao Te Ching, chapter 16, listen to the stanza. It says, empty yourself of everything. Again, all religions say this, whether it be in the words of surrender your whole being to God, that's empty yourself of everything. Whether it be know yourself, because to know yourself is to know that you are not a self, so you empty yourself. Forsake all, sacrifice yourself. These are all the same sayings. It says, empty yourself of everything. Let the mind rest at peace. Again, in other books, it speaks of a peace beyond understanding. It says, the 10,000 things will rise and fall, while the self watches their return. Everything rises from the self and returns to the self. And the knower of these comings and goings is nothing but God, infinite being. It says they grow and flourish and then return to the source. Returning to the source is stillness, which is the way of nature. And the way of nature is unchanging. So you must find the unchanging within nature, and you are that unchanging. You cannot be the changing, because if you were the changing, you would have left when the change happened. But you remain constant. You, your essence, remains constant throughout all changes. It says knowing consistency is insight. Not knowing the stillness or consistency leads to disaster, leads to suffering. With an open mind, you will be open-hearted. Being open-hearted, you will act royally. Being royal, you will attain the divine. Being divine, you will be at one with the Tao, or one with God. And being one with God is eternal. It also says this in the New Testament, to know God is eternal life. And though the body dies, the Tao never passes away. You are the Tao, mistaking yourself to be the body. This is from the Tao Te Ching, Chinese philosophy in the mid-century BC, mid-first century. Or excuse me, mid-first millennia. This is out of the Bhagavad Gita, written around the same time in India. This is in chapter 2. Listen to this. Chapter 2, verse 14 says, when the senses contact sense objects, a person experiences cold or heat, pleasure or pain. The experiences are fleeting. They come and go. Bear them patiently. Those who are unaffected by these changes, who are the same in pleasure and pain, are truly wise and fit for immortality. This is the same thing that the Apostle Paul says, I am content in all things. The Apostle Paul also said he has been translated into the kingdom of heaven. Listen to verse 16. The impermanent has no reality. See, the common man mistakes the impermanent for reality. The world is reality, but the world is ever changing. Every time I speak a sentence, your world is changing because a new sound has come into it. Do not grasp the impermanent. There is nothing but suffering when you do not understand the nature of the world. It goes on to say the body is mortal, but that which dwells in the body is immortal and immeasurable. It says, you were never born, you will never die. You have never changed and can never change. Unborn, eternal, immutable, immemorable, immemorial. You do not die when the body dies. That was out of the Bhagavad Gita. chapter 2, an Indian holy book. Let me go to the Upanishads, another Indian holy book. It said, listen to this. It says in the Katha Upanishads, verse 18, it says, the all-knowing self was never born, nor will it die, beyond cause and effect. The self is eternal and immutable. When the body dies, the self does not die. Right? It goes on to say, hidden in the heart of every creature exists the self, subtler than the subtlest. We read this in the Quran as well. Greater than the greatest. They go beyond all sorrow who extinguish their self-will and behold the glory of the self. So this is out of the Upanishad, speaking of the same thing as we spoke in the beginning. The one who seeks is the one being sought after. So we read the Tao, we read the Quran, we read the Hindu holy scriptures. Listen to what it says in the New Testament, although I have quoted the New Testament many of times. Let me just read 1 John 4, verse 4. It says, ye are of God. You are of God. Your essence is God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And truly it's not in you. The only reason they say it's within you is in respect to you believing that you are something physical. But when you see what you are in essence, there is no in or out. It just is. Everything is God, and you are the essence of everything. And so this video is to guide you to your eternal nature through scriptures and just through this little talk, because I know many need scriptures to validate their beliefs. You must first believe it in order to achieve it. And so you must come to rest in the stillness that pervades all of the movement. And when you find that, your mind will begin to turn you away. But eventually you'll begin to focus on that even in times of trouble. And the more you focus on your essence, the more and more you will remain in it until you eventually become stabilized in it. So with that, I say shalom.
Sounds made by the angels to the made man, I maintain that. Cause I've been talking this same talk, Hustle walking this same block. Ghetto prophecies raised up on the same breath, I retain marks. Flute sounds like raindrops, mood found in the main sports. Still arise on the same way, I must still blaze like every day. One heart, one love, one journey on the on-cart. Mind struck, thumbs up, peace branded like a mind spark. Underground where I'm home safe, mother love in my own space. Raw sounds from above the ground, mother nature placed upon my face. Heart raised, time phased, vibrations are old age. Soul saved, God's grace, still amazing like song play. Heart set in the darkness, cause my light wakes up their heartless. Mind blessed, souls rest, life check on a flow test. Cause these fruits are from heaven, sounds made by the angels. Down to earthly descendants, to the made man, I maintain that. Cause these fruits are from heaven, sounds made by the angels. Down to earthly descendants, to the made man, I maintain that. Cause these fruits are from heaven, sounds made by the angels. Down to earthly descendants, to the made man, I maintain that. Cause these fruits are from heaven, sounds made by the angels. Down to earthly descendants, to the made man, I maintain that.